Am I the asshole for getting mad at my friend's wife for accusing me of racism? This happened last night. Before you comment, read the bottom. I've, 25M, known my friend Jerome, 26M, not his name, since middle school. He's one of my best friends, and the first Thursday of every month, our friend group has a get-together at his house. His wife Jasmine, 30F, also not her name, is a very sweet lady, and their kids, both 4, are both very funny and polite, if not a little energetic. And they love the Thursday night get-together cause about 10 people are over and they get to stay up late and run around while we hang out. So it was finally time for the kids to go to bed, but one of them wanted to stay up and happened to be by me. He tried his best to get me to play cool uncle, but it was 9 o'clock and Jerome looked tired, so I figured it was time for bed. He threw a tantrum and whined at me, so Jerome scooped him up and took him to bed. After he went down, Jerome came back to apologize for his son's behavior towards me. I said there was no need, I know it was late and his kid was tired. He's a good kid. Jerome thanked me for backing him up, 'cause I take the kid's side a lot as a joke. This is where I fucked up. So I said, not my circus, not my monkeys. Which is a turn of phrase, nothing to do with race, and Jerome knew. But Jasmine did not apparently, and she was standing nearby when she heard me say it. She gave me an odd look and walked away. I didn't think anything at the time, but another friend approached me a little later and asked me what I said to get Jasmine so riled up cause she was going around telling everyone I called her kids monkeys. I was fairly offended. I attended their wedding, I've known these kids since birth. I buy them birthday and Christmas presents. They call me uncle. I'm at this house once a month. I love this family. What the fuck is this? So I asked Jasmine if she would be willing to speak with me privately, not wanting to cause a scene, and she said no. So I asked why she was telling people I called her kids monkeys in a derogatory way, when the phrase I used doesn't have anything to do with that. She tells me she's never heard that phrase, and it's likely an old Southern racist idiom. I must admit, I was pretty pissed at this point. I am friends with her and her husband, and I don't deserve to be treated like this for something misunderstood on her end. I apologized for any offense she might have taken, but she had simply not understood what I said and applied her own context. We went back and forth until I just left. Didn't say goodbye to anyone, nothing to Jerome, but I wasn't going to be talked to like this when I did nothing wrong. It's the day after, and I'm still annoyed, but I haven't talked to anyone about last night yet. My phone blew up after I left, but I'm not responding to anyone right now. Am I in the wrong here? Does Jasmine have a point? I need to know what people uninvolved think, cause this is ridiculous to me. I didn't feel the need to state this earlier, but I am white. Jerome, Jasmine and their kids are not. Update. Read this before anything else. So I just got off the phone with Jerome and I fucked up. So she was drunk as a skunk last night. We all tend to drink lightly at their house cause we all have to drive in the dark and the streetlights are fucky in that neighborhood. But she and Jerome don't have to drive cause it's their house. Anyway, I had no idea she was slammed last night and she's super hungover and embarrassed right now. I regret posting this, but I can't delete it. 100% on me. I feel like an idiot. We talked on the phone for like 40 minutes, we're all okay now. Huge mistake on my part. Not the asshole. You made a comment, she took offense, you tried to deal with it respectfully, therefore not the awe. You did try to deal with this as an adult, and the "not my circus" comment is one I've heard in a lot of contexts, none of them dealing with race. I'm not saying she is the asshole, necessarily, but her badmouthing you to others is certainly not getting her any points with me. All young children are basically monkeys, though. Not the asshole, she is completely misunderstanding, and there's nothing racist here at all. Why is Jerome allowing this to happen? Not the asshole. As far as I know, the saying is originally Polish, so definitely nothing racist there. Not the asshole. I've heard that saying my whole life. If it has racist ties, I've never heard of it. But maybe I'm ignorant? White female. Would I be the asshole for telling my boyfriend to stop inviting his brother to do things with us? My boyfriend, Derek, constantly invites his brother, Mikey, to things I'm inviting only my boyfriend to. Next week we're supposed to go out of town for my mom's birthday. We're just going to have dinner out of town. So my dad had made a reservation for the 6 of us. My parents, my sister and her husband, Derek and myself. I had texted Derek reminding him about the dinner and the reservation, and he responded saying that his brother would be available to go as well. I was confused at this point because, well, first of all, it was a reservation for 6 and I'm not sure why it would be necessary for Mikey to go with us. I ignored this text reminding him of the already set reservation for 6 people, hoping he'd get the hint that I'm not inviting his brother and I have no intention of doing so. Derek responded saying that Mikey was willing to pay for himself and I again just ignored it, reminded him that it was a reservation for 6 and we cycled text back and forth a couple of more times and finally the conversation moved on. Edit. Want to point out I didn't ignore all texts from him, I only ignored the specific text saying Mikey wanted to go. I did respond to him, just not about his brother. This is not the first time I invite my Derek to something and he asks if Mikey can join us or he just brings his brother along. Here's a couple of other examples. We were going to go on a beach trip with my parents a year ago and he invited his brother without asking me in the first place. Trip ended up being cancelled though due to unrelated issues. I had invited Derek to my cousin's wife's birthday and he brought his Mikey, which wasn't too annoying, but his Macaire tried to invite his friends to her party and never consulted my cousin or his wife to ask if that was okay to begin with. It was a small intimate party, so it kinda irritated me that he didn't even bother to ask for permission. I wanted to go out to eat with my Derek like a last-minute date night and Mikey invited himself and they spent the entire time talking to each other. I felt like a third wheel the entire time. Another time we went out to eat with an old friend of theirs and as I went to sit next to my boyfriend his Mikey sat next to him, so I then had to sit next to their childhood best friend and across from his brother not being next to my boyfriend. I really didn't enjoy that dinner, it was very awkward, even my boyfriend was upset about it but didn't actually say anything. I also wanted to say that their own parents have told Derek that he needs stop making his Mikey a part of our relationship as it's as disrespectful. Definitely have trouble standing up for myself. WH9 chains is probably why I feel like I might be in the wrong here. Also rather it be face-to-face conversation, which is why I haven't texted him about this issue yet. I have a few days to process how to ask as I will be out of town for several days. So Wibta for telling my boyfriend to stop inviting his brother along with us. Edit. I have brought this up to his attention once before after my cousin's wife's party. So sorry if anything is spelled wrong or maybe doesn't make perfect sense as I'm rushing. Not the asshole. And this is honestly bizarre, if even the parents have told him to stop. You need to have a talk with him, face to face, and tell him exactly how you feel about it. If it ends you dodged a bullet. What's he gonna do next? Invite him to a couple's retreat with you? But you already did tell him to stop inviting his brother to no avail. Meaning, this is a rooted behavior and he's not budging. Ask yourself. Is this a deal breaker? If it is, just move on. If it isn't, get used to Mikey. Clearly there's something wrong in the way both of them perceive family dynamics and intimacy. Not the asshole. Are you dating my ex-boyfriend? Tears of joy, not actually seeking an answer to that as I'm pretty sure my ex is married now. I dated a guy in high school about 10 years ago and he always brought his kid brother along. I broke up with him for this and a couple of other reasons. I would recommend having a proper chat about alone time. If he doesn't respect that you want that time with just the two of you, then he isn't worth it. Not the asshole. But it doesn't seem like your boyfriend is going to take the hint and stop including his brother in everything. You might have to set up strict boundaries and follow through with any consequences when he breaks them. Also, if this was your BF's best friend instead of brother, I'd have just commented all the lyrics from Me, You, and Steve. Not the asshole. But you should really talk to him sooner rather than getting to the point when you can't stand it anymore. It's clear that they have a rather special relationship. But it needs to be pointed out that he shouldn't be by your side by default. It's not a threesome. Don't be afraid you will be the bad guy in this because you are simply not. Am I the asshole for getting a tattoo when my husband isn't on board? My husband and I don't get in many disagreements, but when we do it's about money. We keep our finances separate. He has his bank account and I have mine. We split house costs mostly 50-50. He makes about $10K more than I do, so he does pay a bit more. But he is so tight with money. I have a tattoo I've been wanting to get for a long time. But I've either been pregnant or not financially able to spend frivolously. It will be $400 per sitting for 2 sittings. I will have to take work off, paid, and arrange for care for my baby. I'm paying for this myself. I work full-time from home while also watching our 9-month-old. Yes, it's a frivolous expense, but am I in the wrong for wanting to get something for myself to make myself feel good? I am not the type to go get my hair or nails done. The only frivolous thing I really spend money on is clothing recently because my body has changed since having a baby and nothing fits. When I asked for his opinion last night, he finally came out with saying that he's not on board because there are other things we need to be spending our money on. He is concerned because our bathroom needs remodeling and he wants new countertops, and he thinks those items keep getting pushed back for other things. We afford all of the basics just fine. We are not well off, but we are also not struggling to keep food on the table by any means. Am I wrong to think that there will always be a better reason to spend money, and it will never be an ideal time to put money into something cosmetic like a tattoo? So he will never be on board anyway. Am I selfish? We lost our first baby halfway through the pregnancy and I got pregnant again months after. I feel like I've been pregnant for 2 years and have put everything on hold. I feel like I don't even recognize my own body anymore. This tattoo means a lot to me. So am I the asshole? Edit. Adding some info. He himself is covered in expensive tattoos that he did trades and motorcycle work for. This was pre-marriage and baby. He now has no interest in getting more tattoos. The tattoo itself would be most of my upper arm. So 5 by 8 maybe. I already have tattoos on my forearms and back. 400 per sitting. First lines then color. It will be at the end of September and the color sometime in October. Sorry, the money situation sounds confusing. I misspoke, I guess. We do not split bills 50-50 because he makes $10K more than I do. We have it where I contribute the proportionate amount to what we make in bills. I also provide all childcare while I am working full-time. I don't feel one of us provides more than the other when it all boils down. This has always been agreed upon since we started dating. He would get a check and I would get the next check. We have kept our finances separate and live the same way now. He picks something up, then I do, and so on. I didn't expect so many comments. I am working, but I will do my best to answer comments when I can. Thank you all. Not the asshole. I think that if you're doing separate finances, maybe an extra account for home expenses would be a good idea. You each agree to put a portion in and you use that for renovations. Is your husband also saving his spending money for the house? If so, then maybe a talk about a way to do that together would be a good idea. Not the asshole. You do not say what he spends his discretionary income on. If he spends money on himself, then he has no say. In Ta, it's your body. He wants new countertops, he can buy them himself since he keeps his own money. Heck, I'd tell him to watch the baby. It's his kid also. Definitely not the asshole. I think you've earned this special treat for yourself. The kind of things your husband is talking about cost thousands of dollars. You can't compare new countertops or a bathroom remodel with a tattoo. You can both open a joint savings account for these goals and contribute a bit each month towards them. You've had a rough time lately. Just do it. Not the asshole. I may get attacked for this, but it sounds like you bring in more than your fair share, and you do a majority of the parenting due to WFH. At this point, he is the a-hole if he is seriously pushing this. He has a right to his opinion, and I do think you should consider it. However, it's your choice. You have separate finances and can afford it. You also pull more than your share of the weight, which seems fine to you both, but I think this small desire should be more than acceptable. I am sorry that he doesn't recognize the value of this to you. I do hope he can get over it and be happy for you. Am I the asshole for not paying my nephew's tuition? I, 39F, recently got divorced. It was my fault. I had a one-night stand with a colleague, he fell in love, and when I didn't want to follow him, he sent evidence of our love to my then-husband, John, 45M. I know I was wrong for cheating, that's not my question. All things considered, the divorce proceedings were relatively amicable. I really wanted to stay in our home, it's where I raised our son, David, 17M. And we found a way to make that possible. Soon after the divorce, my father, 76M, was diagnosed with cancer. He always wanted to go on a cruise with the whole family, and is planning the big voyage for the next holidays, treatments permitting. But that time was meant to be time for John to see David, so I need John's okay. I brought it up with him, and he understood that my father's diagnosis changed things. But he didn't agree immediately, he wants to talk to David first. That talk hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, school tuition comes due, we send David to an expensive private school. John has an impressive income, and he's happy to pay for David's education. But, prior to our divorce, we were helping my sister, Susan, 43F, who is not as wealthy, by paying to send her 2 children, 16M and 13M, to the same school. Susan gets the bill and sends it to John. He responded that since they are not family anymore, it isn't his problem. Susan thinks it isn't fair on her children to have to switch schools since they have both already been going there, have friends there, and would have to go to a lesser quality school. Susan and her family have been relying on him, and it's cruel of John to cut them off. My parents think that because the divorce was my fault, this is my responsibility. They suggest I sell the house and come live with them. They have even found someone who would buy it, my cousin. I don't want to do this, primarily because of my parents smoking, but also it's not as straightforward as they make it sound. In the divorce we set up the deed to transfer the property to David after I die. John wanted to ensure that if I were to remarry, it wouldn't end up with my hypothetical stepchildren. John thinks it's nothing to do with him anymore, and if there is money for a cruise then it's time for the rest of the family to step up and get them through this transition. In any case though, I don't really want to push back on him because he hasn't technically agreed to let David go on the holiday and I don't want to mess up my father's possible last wish. I feel guilty about the situation. I don't see a happy way of getting the money together. But I also agree that it is unfair that my nephews will likely have to move schools due to no fault of their own. I wish I could help, but I'm not the wealthy auntie I was a year ago. I'm by no means living in poverty, but I don't have that kind of spare money either. Does that make me the aw? And #X200B. Names have been changed obviously. Not the asshole for the question you asked. We're not here to judge your cheating. But you know who is an asshole, your family. John is no longer paying the tuition, and I can't blame him. The rest of your family should step up and help out here if they still want these two kids to go to that school. Not the asshole. The sense of entitlement from your sister and your whole family to your money and your ex-husband's money is a little amazing. This home is your retirement and your son's future too. It's unfortunate and yes, your actions caused it, but it was an overly generous gift for while it lasted. They might go to a lower quality school, but their prior education and connections will enable they to get great grades and a higher class rank. They will be fine and might actually get into better colleges. I can see why your ex says, they aren't family now. It seems clear that they just saw him as a bank account. Your entire family is delusional. How do people have that line of reasoning? Your parents are assholes. They want you to sell your house to pay for your nephew's school? That's nuts. It's unfair that your sister sent them to a school she couldn't afford. She had to know it wouldn't last forever. Not the asshole. The circumstances have now changed. She can send them to a normal school that is good enough for everybody else. The sheer entitlement of her is shocking. If she wants expensive things then she needs to work harder to afford them.